I saw you posted something on that too, and I was trying to.
Hello, Nathan Baird from Indy Star.
Sam King from the Journal and Courier.
Sorry about the glare in the background. We're doing the best we can. What is this? The Wooden Club? I always get the club names mixed up.
I did not check the name. Yeah, I think so.
Right here in Mackey Arena. Had a press conference today with Mike Bobinski about the firing of Ryan Walters, but I think more importantly than that, the plan moving forward after the firing of Ryan Walters. So if you go to our websites, Sam has a story up about sort of the thought process that Mike Bobinski faced in moving on from Ryan Walters and some of those details. And we're not really going to get into those today because we want to just go right to the future and what's coming next for Purdue football. So just to kind of get over some of the important details that came out today. They are honoring the full buyout. People might remember when Tom Allen left Indiana, they negotiated that buyout from like $20 million to $15.5 million. They paid it in a couple of installments, but Mike Bobinski said they're paying Ryan Walters' full buyout that's paid in monthly installments. It is not mitigated, as far as I can tell, in the contract. So that's a $9.5 million apple to just swallow right up front. There are still staff members. I was originally led to believe that maybe everything that didn't make sense to me. Like somebody still has to be here to handle signing day, the logistics, portal opening, get those. You're negotiating with players already on. Ryan Walters has been talking about that 2-3 weeks ago when I asked about it, about keeping guys here, and that has to keep going. So some of those guys, the staff members, are still in place. And he also said, I think the most important thing for our immediate concern is week to 10 days. He thinks 10 days at like the outset. And I would really imagine it would probably be something they try to wrap up as quickly as a week.
Yeah, it's not a hard set deadline, but that is a number that he said numerous times throughout the course of the press conference.
Right. And if that week started Sunday, then we're talking about maybe having someone in place by the end of this week. And that's important because the transfer portal opens for everybody a week from today on December 9th. Now, if your coach was fired, the portal's already open. Right. That's why you're seeing Purdue players already declaring into the portal. You'll see players at other schools also declare their intent to go into the portal.
Tavion
Galloway did that
previously
here for Purdue, right? And then just went in yesterday formally. But players are going to declare their intent to go in the portal because you can do that anytime. You can be like a sophomore in high school and declare that you're going to go in the portal and if you want to, I guess, but you can't actually enter the portal till Monday. But once that happens, then like you can start contacting guys, and whoever this new coach is going to have to acquire some talent. We don't know the full extent of guys who have left, but there've already been some. Nobody that I would call like a seismic loss yet.
The ones that I've seen, Muhammad Musa, not a surprise. Armand Branch, who did not play very much this season. Yanni Karloftis, which was not a surprise, was kind of expected probably. So.
Yeah.
And Marcus Bowe has declared for the NFL draft despite having a year of eligibility remaining.
Right, which also was not unexpected. That was, I anticipated that he would probably go that route. So right now, that is an important date, and it's a date I would kind of keep in mind. Maybe by the end of this week, certainly I would think by Monday, they would want to have someone in place, and that puts you in that 8-9 day range. What was maybe the thing as you got
Before
here?
We get there, I think it's important to note for people, you can go in the portal and still return to Purdue.
That's
You're
important.
Just opening up your options to others who may be seeking out your services.
Yes, and I hate to keep bringing up this particular example, but it is the most recent one. IU had that last winter. A lot of guys went in the portal. They hired Kurt Cignetti. Guys came out of the portal, stayed at Indiana. And I've seen it happen to other schools. It happened at Ohio State a couple times when I was covering that team. So it is not uncommon. As far as looking into the future, when you got here today, what was maybe the thing that you wanted to know the most about where Purdue is going to go next?
I had a list of questions, and then you just kind of took the mic, and I was checking them off.
Asked a bunch of them?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You were asking the questions that I already had. That's the main thing was I was kind of, as we had talked about on BoilersXTRA podcast, just lingering around the complex yesterday and trying to get a feel of things. And Mike Bobinski, I was aware, addressed the team yesterday, and I wanted to find out what he told these players that hopefully allows this program to retain the players it wants to retain. And, he's got to save face a little bit. And obviously he said, things like, hey, let us hire a coach and then make your decision with a more informed background on why you're doing things. But people are going to jump in the portal, and that's just the reality.
If you were planning to leave anyway,
Yeah.
There's guys jumping in the portal now who we think we're probably going to be in the portal.
Yeah, I guess the number one thing I wanted to know, I assumed that Bobinski had a big hand in this, but who is kind of running in the interim Purdue's football program with recruits, with transfer portal stuff, and trying to, I guess, retain as much as you can or keep the guys who are still committed here?
This is going to be a small signing class on Wednesday. They're not doing a formal, which is kind of a ceremonial thing every year, right? Every team likes to get together and like trumpet its signing class. And this year, it's down to 6 guys, I think, 6 or 7. And that includes,
one has not decommitted, but he said he's not signing until February.
Right. So yeah, it's a small group, and you also don't have a coach in place that recruited those guys, a head coach, to be the spokesperson. It doesn't surprise me that they're not doing that. But you got to have someone here, and I think even more than this signing class, it really is guys on this roster who other teams are coming for. Who's the bridge to the head coach to at least let that guy make his case to keep those guys at Purdue? I think that is an important piece of this. Mike Bobinski didn't have a lot of specifics, wasn't sharing a lot of specifics on some things that I didn't expect him to. He was asked, what are you willing to pay for this coach and staff? And he kind of said, whatever it takes. Now, that within reason, you're not trying to hire away a guy who's making $10 million right now. You're getting someone probably either on the way up or making a parallel move that maybe involves a raise, but not out of the realm of what Purdue has probably been paying. There's some guys, as we talked about on yesterday's Boilers Extra, that are in that category. But the other thing that I thought was important to establish today was, and I think there was some concern out there that, there have been a lot of these discussions about how much they were trying to keep Ryan Walters and give him every chance to prove. I think that's a better way to say it. I think they were open to him proving with a performance in the back half of the season that he deserved another season. And that simply didn't happen. It had not happened even before the 66-0 debacle at IU. So it needed to be asked of Mike Bobinski, how has this process been unfolding? And he confirmed that there's been sort of a duality, because we've been seeing him after every Monday football press conference. He and Ryan Walters are out here in this press conference, and they've been talking, strategizing. I overheard one time one of them say the date December 9th, which, as I said before, is the portal. They were talking about what would happen next, and they were talking about what needed to be done to get this team to win this season. At the same time he's doing that, though, you have to plan for contingencies. This was not an out of left field contingency that they might have to make a coaching change. And he confirmed that there has been background work done over the past several weeks. And I think that should be reassuring to fans who were worried that they got to Saturday or Sunday morning and were just like, well, who do we call? They've been working at this.
Yes. And, one thing he did mention, he kind of asked the question, nobody asked it of him, but why didn't you do this sooner? And he said there was really no advantage to doing it sooner. And I kind of had relayed that to people throughout the course of the season who kept saying, why don't they just fire him tomorrow? Well, much to the case with the offensive coordinator, there just wasn't a better option if you're doing that. But now, you're stuck it's inevitable now. You have to hire a new head coach. That head coach has to hire a staff, and it's going to materialize in, really a matter of days how all this happens. And people that remember when Jeff Brown left a couple of years ago, it was like by the time Purdue had played its next game, a bowl game, Ryan Walters had been the head coach in waiting, I guess, for 2 weeks and was there on the sideline at the bowl game. So this stuff happens pretty rapidly, but that's why you're doing the background work 6-7 weeks ago and just gauging interest from people hey, if you were to come here, how much would it take? What kind of players could you bring with you? What kind of staff members could you assemble kind of on the fly? Because all of that plays out now. As much as you want to hire a great head coach that can come in there and turn your program around quickly, you have to factor in all the other things now with it. Just in terms of you see how quickly a program can flip through the transfer portal. That has to be one of the main caveats that you're looking for when you hire a head coach.
It was Trekoff and Wren that walked by that I waved
at. We're standing out here with the basketball players. Well, if you saw a shadow cast over, Wilberg just walked by as well. So.
What position should Trekoff and Wren play if he was a football player? It's I'm thinking maybe an outside linebacker, strong safety, or tight end, something like that.
He's 6'9", so he's a big target to throw the ball to.
That's true. I'd make him a tight end. That's exact. That with that size, you have to put him a tight end, I think, or defensive end maybe. We're really straying from the point here. They are not. Don't get that started. They're not pulling Trickoff and Wren off of the basketball court to play football.
You can't enter the transfer portal and go play another sport.
Mike Bobinski did confirm they're using an executive search firm. That is kind of industry standard. It's definitely what Purdue has done in these searches going back to Morgan Burke's days. And to make sure that people understand what that is, it's not you handing over, hey, go find us candidates.
Purdue's board and president and athletic director are still making this hire.
Correct. They are still executing the search. What the search firm does for you is, honestly, they do a lot of work to keep people like us from finding out what work they're doing. Because if you do it through that firm, you don't have somebody looking at your phone records. You don't have somebody you have ways around this. But more importantly than that, that's who's doing your background checks. That's who is just making, they can reach out like a search firm who if you've been using them for, let's say 2 weeks, or even just right now, the search firm can reach out to a coach's agent and say, I have a client who is interested in talking to your coach about a job, and they can start that conversation. That doesn't mean they are going out and giving you the candidates. I think Purdue will find the candidates. It's just a matter of they do a lot of background work, a lot of logistical work, and a lot of headache work, and take that off of the plate of the people who are then going and finding these people and identifying the next coach and hiring them.
Yeah, and Bobinski said that he either said he didn't know or didn't say what that search firm was. So that's being kept tight-lipped, because at this point, you certainly know who it is, I would imagine. So.
Yeah, there's some secrecy to those sort of things too, because it's a lot of times you'll see so-and-so was, I think Mike Bobinski used the search firm when he was at Georgia Tech that ultimately was used to help bring him to Purdue, like that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So they don't want people maybe connecting the dots, but we'll still try to figure it out because we're jerks like that. And
we're watching flight trackers and all kinds of other things.
Yeah. Obviously, another big topic of conversation, we'll kind of wrap it up with this for the day. We're going to be doing these, I think, pretty consistently over the next week until this is resolved. But one of the big topics today, and he came prepared to answer this. He came with an answer, like a scripted answer, and he forgot to say it at first, and he doubled back and said it because he knows that there is a lot of talk out there about Purdue has to go back and get an offensive coach, has to go back and get an offensive-minded veteran head coach, et cetera, et cetera. And that may be ultimately where they go. I think it will make a lot of sense if that is ultimately where they go. But for any number of reasons, all the basketball teams use one guys. For any number of reasons, I don't think you want to play your hand that way. But also, we talked about this a little bit on the Boilers Extra Pod last night. I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself. I don't think you want, if you go into this with blinders on and say, we're not even considering someone who hasn't been a head coach before. We're not even considering someone who has a defensive background, because maybe that person has an incredible plan and has been a successful head coach already and knows how to bring in an offensive-minded guy to lead things. He made it clear today, what was the line? It was like, we're going to go back to a winning coach. That's what we're going to go back to, which was clearly something like he had been. I just thought it was kind of funny. It felt like he had been like rehearsing it and then like forgot. And he was like in the middle of it answering to another question was like, oh, wait, no, hold on. I want to make sure I say this. And I think that was the line that maybe fans should hear, because I think you need to have an open mind to this. It's a short amount of time and there's an urgency to not have a repeat of last year. But that doesn't mean that there has to be panic. And I also think it means if you start doing this for optics, or to just answer the opposite of what the last guy was, you're limiting yourself as to who you might end up with.
If you lay out, this is what we're looking for, age, whatever it might be, offensive background, defensive background, whatever it is, you really do. You thin out your candidate. You may miss on a guy just because you've got this steadfast belief of what your program needs. He did kind of say, in order to win, and you've got to be well, and then there's a special whatever formula of a head coach and the staff that head coach can bring along to get the best overall football team is, I think, the route that Purdue's going to go. And I was critical, and I said Purdue has to go back to an offensive-minded head coach. And now I feel kind of stupid because I think I backtrack a little bit. But you have to have an established, high-scoring kind of offense. That's what Purdue's kind of known for years.
Well, and I think the other thing that I thought was enlightening that he said today. Sam's got to leave in a minute, so we're going to wrap up. But one of the enlightening things he said today was that he was talking about. He answered a question when he was talking about why it didn't work for Ryan Walters, and he said he kind of vaguely said something about we didn't have things up to the standards that they should be. And I followed up on that because I thought he was talking about like infrastructure or facilities or NIL, and he said no. He didn't want to throw people under the bus. But he was basically saying we didn't have the right staff. We didn't have the right assistant coaches.
He said cohesion with the staff.
Right. He said nothing. He said he didn't feel like the staff clicked and there wasn't a cohesive. Yeah, cohesive was the word he used. And it's, Brian Newbert then asked, I thought a good follow up to that, which was, okay, well, coaches don't just bring their staff anymore. They bring players. And Mike Bobinski said, yes, they do. And that's going to be a factor here. That's something that I think that they are would see as a real benefit, but it's also not going to be the one and only factor. So all of those things are on his mind right now. It's just going to be both a speedy and deliberate process. It's going to happen fast, but it doesn't mean it has to happen sloppy.
Right, and this is not 20 years ago where you could take your time and hire a candidate that where you've interviewed everybody you possibly want to. In today's world of college athletics, you have to save face as quickly as you can. So you have to make the right hire, but you also have to make that hire on a very short deadline.
The other thing about the timing is if you fire somebody earlier in the season, I think this happened maybe with Jeff Brom, where like they waited until after the Conference USA Championship game to really get into the negotiations of that. So like now we're at that point, like we're at the end of the season. There may be guys that are looking at who are in Conference Championship games, Group of Five. We'll find out over the course of this week, but this is when the sausage would be being made anyway. So we're going to sign off there. I know I asked for questions on Twitter. I didn't really get any, and something we still just keep getting this monkey in the chat box. So I'm gonna reach out to Brian YouTube or whoever is in charge of this and find out what's up with the monkey, and we'll try to actually get some chat questions because we're gonna talk to you guys and gals all week about this until Purdue comes up with a coach. So
and if somebody else knows how to get rid of the purple monkey with a red hat and red hammer,
yes,
let us know.
Yes. Find us on Twitter. Find us on email. Wherever else we are, Friendster. Send us a message. We will get it figured out. But thanks for joining us. We'll be back throughout the week. Take care.